Good Erev Shabbos, Parshas Seitze. One of the more difficult and complex mitzvahs in the Torah is the mitzvah of Eshes Yifas Toar, the captive woman, the woman who is taken captive, and the Jewish soldier wants to be with her and ultimately marries her. This topic and this phenomenon of the Eshes Yifas Toar requires treatment in its own right. However, for the purposes of today's drasha, I would like simply to call our attention to a comment in the Zohar. What was the process of the Yifas Tohar? The soldier would see her, he would want to be with her, and the Torah tells us that the soldier must bring her into his home. She cuts her hair, she cuts her nails, she removes her clothing of captivity. And she will lament the loss of her parents for 30 days. Those 30 days are a days of mourning, a days of loss, a days of lamenting. Says the Zohar, Da hi yarcha de elul. These 30 days that are referenced to in the Torah, Yarach Yamim, it's the month of Elul. The Beisalik Moshe Lotura, when Moshe went up the mountain, Lemibe Rachamim Kamei Kudsha Barichu, to seek compassion from Hashem. Begin the Yishtebek Yisrael Al Chova de Egla. Because of the sin, Moshe was seeking compassion and forgiveness for the Jewish people who had done a terrible sin of the golden calf, of the Egel Hazahav. This is the 30 days that is being hinted to in the pasuk. What is the connection here between the Eshes Yifas Tohar, mourning her parents for 30 days, and the month of Elul and all of us? It seems to me that what the Zohar is hinting to here is the fact that anytime we mourn over a loss. Anytime there is a loss, we mourn over it. And there's all types of mourning, all types of losses. We often associate mourning with the most extreme type of loss, and that is death. And of course, if there is a death, we do mourn intensely so. But if a person loses a pen, there's no loss in that pen. There might be a very fleeting and momentary mourning for it, but there is even a moment of feeling, I've lost that. If I have something with a deeper relationship, an object of a deeper relationship, let's say a piece of jewelry that my spouse gave me, a watch that was given to me when we got engaged, or a family heirloom that came down from generation to generation, that we are the bearers of that responsibility to hold that heirloom, and we lose that. Those are objects with much more significant relationship. And we lose that, there is a more significant sense of mourning. And then there are relationships. A person has and then there's life situations, such that I can have a healthy loss and an unhealthy sense of loss. A person is chronically unwell, and all of a sudden they find a way to heal their malady. There is, strangely for some people, a sense of loss of their routine when they were chronically ill, of the familiarity of their chronic illness, and that too is a loss. Maybe it's an unhealthy sense of loss, but it is a loss and a mourning nevertheless. Or perhaps a healthy type of mourning, a happy type of mourning, if you can say that. When a child, let's say, for example, becomes independent, let's say gets married and moves on in their life. We are thrilled, we are joyous, we are happy in a healthy family dynamic. But we will also experience a sense of loss and a mourning over the loss of that child being an intimate part of my life, being part of my nuclear daily family structure. We are thrilled and we are joyous and happy, but there is a mourning over that loss. So there are all types of losses, and then there's a mourning over a failed relationship or a disintegrated relationship. But that is even more intense. And the most intense type of mourning is the mourning over a loss of a family member, and that is when we experience mourning as we often use the term. During this 30-day period, the Eshes Yifas Tohar, this beautiful, beautiful woman, laments the loss of her entire life structure. And through that lamenting, and through that cry, and through that mourning, she will be able then to transition to marry this man. Again, the whole notion of the Eshes Yifas Torah requires treatment in its own right. But this part of the process is a process in which the Yifas Torah, the beautiful woman, emerges after having discarded what needs to be discarded and mourn what needs to be mourned, so she can thus move forward. Dahi Yarcha de Elul. This is precisely the month of Elul. This is what Elul is. Elul is a time when we look at ourselves and we look at our lives and we say some things need to be discarded. Some behaviors need to be discarded. And I acknowledge that it is hard to do that because I am comfortable. I am comfortable in my space. I am comfortable in my behaviors. I'm comfortable in my relationships, even though they are not emotionally healthy for me, even though they are not spiritually healthy for me, and they may not be physically healthy for me. Nevertheless, I have the courage and the strength to discard it. I acknowledge the loss and I mourn it. And that gives me the opportunity and the ability to move forward. Dahi Yarcha de Elul. That is precisely what Elul is about. There is a statement from the Navi Yeshaya, which is often said at the conclusion of an actual Avelos, as we understand it, an actual mourning over the loss of death. The pasuk says, "Lo yavo od shimshech v'irechech lo yeasef, ki Hashem yelach olam v'shalmu yemei evlech." No more will your sun set, nor your moon be darkened. V'irechech lo yeasef. Hashem should be an eternal light for you, and your days of mourning will indeed end. Vishalmu yemei evlech. The word here that the Navi uses for this period of time is v'irechech lo yeasef. V'irechech lo yeasef. Your moon shall not be darkened. Yerach, the Torah tells us that these 30 days, Yerach Yamim, these are 30 days when we go from darkness to light. And those 30 days of darkness to light, Dahi Yarcha de Elul. We have a whole year where we accumulate all types of toxic behaviors. Some of them are toxic for others, and some of them are toxic for ourselves. And in all situations, if we are engaged in behavior which is less than what is truly our inner selves coming forth, our bright light of our inner selves coming forth, there is always some level of spiritual toxicity. And if we want to emerge from that dark place, whether it is just a little shade or it is truly a dark place, we have to mourn. We have to acknowledge the comfort of our life, the familiarity, the comfort we have in that familiarity, and be courageous enough to discard it, so we can make real decisions in order to deepen our spiritual existence, in order to make our lives more meaningful and purposeful, more joyous and content. Dahi Yarcha de Elul. That is the month of Elul. Just as the Eshes Yifas Torah, this beautiful, beautiful woman, was able to go through this process and her true beauty was able to emerge, so during our 30-day process, our month of Elul, our beautiful selves, our most beautiful selves, should be given the opportunity to emerge. And we'll only do that if we're honest with ourselves, if we're truly honest, brutally honest, and say what I'm about to discard is hard, and I acknowledge and that I mourn that loss. But if we go through that process of quote-unquote avelos, of mourning that loss, perhaps HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the love, ani l'dodi v'dodi li, the emotional strength and the courage to be able to traverse the ravine and get to the other side of Elul, where we can stand close with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and our fellow man and woman on Rosh Hashanah, and you receive the blessings of a long year of life, a good year of life, of long life, of health and happiness for us, for our families, and for our community. Good Shabbos.